Well, I'm going to introduce, this is Joe Ponsi Jr., right?
Yes.
Joe Ponsi Jr., and he has a store. It's in North Huntington. For anybody from our group around here, it's on Route 30 in North Huntington. And he's going to talk about shoes and other stuff that he has for people with neuropathy. So thank you, Joe, for coming.
Okay, well, thank you for having me. So just to give you a little information about myself, our business was started in 1930. So it went from my grandfather started it, then my father, and then I took over. I've been working there full time since '92 when I graduated from college. Then I went to school and became a certified podorthist. And what that is, it's like a pharmacist for the feet. So we'll get prescriptions, and then for different types of footwear, compression garments, and we feel what the doctor orders. So on top of that, I'm also an ATP, which is an assistive technology provider, which is to measure for high-end wheelchairs, any ADA products. Like we can go in and design ADA bathrooms, ramps, anything that requires handicap accessible living. So we probably do just as much of that equipment today as the footwear. And that's what we started in, but we go by Ponsi's now. It used to be Ponsi Shoes. But we probably do more ramps and stair lifts and vertical platform lifts than we do footwear today. But I'm going to go over some different things on proper fitting for neuropathy. So, and I'm sure you guys are, well aware of the different things, different types of ailments that can cause neuropathy. And those are some of the things that we concentrate on. Lymphedema is one. And if you're not familiar with that, that's excessive swelling of the legs or the feet. And diabetes is probably the most common cause for neuropathy, and is why it becomes more difficult when diabetics get neuropathy, is they can develop ulcerations very easily from that. Now, anybody with neuropathy that can happen to. Although diabetics usually have to be a little bit more careful with it. So is how when someone comes in to our facility and they tell us they have neuropathy, we treat them as they're a diabetic, because you're high at risk. Most people with neuropathy will feel or have more problems with their feet. And so when someone comes in, the first thing we'll do is we'll measure them, because ill-fitting shoes is probably the #1 cause for problems with a diabetic or neuropathy. A lot of people will come in and they'll think their shoes fit properly, and the end of the toe is hitting the end of the shoe. Well, when you walk, and when we walk, our foot will elongate forward. So as we walk, the arch drops and the foot elongates forward. So that's the reason that the American Diabetes Association recommends anywhere from 3/8 to a ½ inch between the end of the toe and the end of the shoe. Now, if you can see this, I brought this diagram, and it shows the foot and the end of the toe where there's some space between the end of the shoe. And whenever you're looking for a shoe, it should be a shoe where it is in the shape of the foot, where the toe is oblique, just like our feet are shaped. Our feet are not shaped like this shoe that comes to a point. So with this particular type of footwear, your foot has to conform to the shape of the shoe. Where in a shoe with an oblique toe, where the toe is in the shape of the foot, the shoe conforms to the shape of the foot. So it's you have less chance of any rubbing or sores from occurring. So if a wide toe boxed shoe with 3/8 to a ½ inch between the end of the shoe and the end of the toe to the end of the shoe, and that's the end of the largest toe. Some people have their big toe, it sticks out further, and sometimes it's the second or third toe that sticks out further than the great toe. So if your second or third toe is longer than your great toe, it should be 3/8 of an inch from the end of that toe to the end of the shoe. So that's probably the most important thing that you can watch out for if you have neuropathy and you don't have any ulcerations. Now, if you get a lot of swelling in your feet, and we have shoes, and I understand that not everybody's from around the area where we are here. So there are several shoes that are made so the shoe expands with the foot. And it expands, and it also contracts as the foot expands and contracts. So if we have someone with lymphedema or swelling issues, we would probably start off with a shoe like this. Now, this shoe may be a little hard to see, but this is all a smooth fabric top with no stitching on it. And the reason for that is the less stitching, there should be no stitching on the inside of the shoe when you have neuropathy, because you don't want anything to irritate the foot. So with this shoe, it expands and it also contracts. So I don't know if you can see that very well from the video here, yes, but it really expands out. It's this whole top of the foot stretches. So once the foot's in the shoe, if there's swelling and you don't have a shoe that expands, it could cause pressure on the foot. And if you're walking all day in it, because you have very little feeling sensation with the neuropathy, you don't know it. So someone like me, if I were to drop something in my shoe, or if my foot would start to swell in the shoe, I would take the shoe off because I have good feeling in my feet. But with someone with neuropathy, if their foot starts to swell, they don't realize it. And we've even had cases where guys on a construction job step on a nail, and their neuropathy is so severe that they don't even feel it until they try to take the shoe off at the end of the day. And then they see the blood in their shoe, and that's the only indication that they've had that there's a problem with that type of, with their foot. So there are other shoes too.
Joe, excuse
yes?
me, can you tell us the name of that shoe? Or
Absolutely. So this particular shoe is made by ProPay. Now, there are several other companies that make shoes similar to this. And I'm going to show you a couple too, but there's a company called Dr. Comfort that they make a shoe like this.
Okay.
There's Apis, APIS, they also make a shoe like this. In fact, Apis, I'm going to show you their shoe, and they make shoes for extreme swelling. For somebody that, and you may have seen this, where their legs get so swollen that it kind of overlaps over their ankles.
Mm-hmm.
And a very dangerous situation with neuropathy, because now you're not only have to worry about the top of your foot or the bottom of your foot, now you have to worry about ulcerations around the ankle, because the skin is actually coming over the top. So this shoe here is made by Apis. And if you can see, the top of this shoe is made of the same material. It's all padded around the ankle. So if their leg is overlapping, this will conform to the ankle as well, and not just the top. This particular shoe is wide, is 14 E's wide. So, and it comes up to size 17. So it is extreme. This shoe being made that we can fit off the shelf has cut down on custom molded shoes greatly, because, and which is a good thing, because custom molded shoes are much more expensive, number one. So this shoe is much more economical. Well, this particular shoe is around $165. Okay. It also has, and all of our shoes do, everything I'm going to show you today, for the exception of some shoes I'm going to show you later on, the insert comes out, and you can replace this insert with a diabetic insert or a custom molded orthotic. But the insert that it does come with is made out of a material. The top is called plastizone. So is what this material does, after you would wear it for a half hour, 45 minutes, even if you're just sitting in a chair, normal wear, walking around, you would see your toe indentations, any pressure areas, any drop metatarsal heads that may be causing a problem. So we can see any problem areas from that. And as what we would do is we would alleviate the pressure on those areas by either grinding out the back, putting another layer on, and hollowing it out. So there's an indentation in that area, so it disperses the pressure across the foot more evenly. So you're not coming right down on that pressure area. Now there's, in fact, I meant to bring a foam impression box, how we take impressions for custom orthotics, because that is another way to alleviate the pressure and off of the foot, and it's probably the most successful way to do it, because at that point we take an impression of the feet, And from that impression, we can tell right from that impression where the problem areas are. So if you have any drop metatarsal heads, claw toes, hammer toes, we can accommodate those. And as what we do, we indent those areas inside the mold. Then we pour that impression with plaster. Then we mold the materials right to the shape of your foot, and we would get something kind of like this.
Wow.
And this is very soft and forgiving. It's a plastizote insert, so even though it's molded to the shape of your foot, it's going to mold even more so. And as your foot takes changes, the orthotic will accommodate those changes. Now, it's going to be really hard to see, but there's an indentation right here. Sometimes the indentation is over in this area. You know, it's always in different areas. So with this particular patient, they have a bony prominence here. So without the insert, they would be walking right on this part of the foot. And with the neuropathy, they wouldn't be able to tell that there's pressure there.
Right.
They would just go on about their day until the end of the day, they see a red mark there, or they see a little bit of blood in the shoe, because those the diminishment of the feeling from the neuropathy is can be so severe at times that you just don't feel anything. Now, most people in the starter neuropathy, which I'm sure, like some people feel like the socks crumpled up in the shoe, that you're walking on marbles or glass, and people will come in all the time and they don't even know they have neuropathy. They'll say, I feel like my socks crumpled in the bottom of my shoe. Yep, and that is the start of neuropathy right there. That's when you have to start being careful, because that is the first indicator. Then as it gets more severe, you might start to feel the numbing tingling, like your foot's asleep, or the glass, walking on glass, or marbles is another thing I've heard several times. So this is an off-the-shelf custom orthotic where we can adapt it. So if the shoe doesn't come with the plastizote multi-density insert, we have these that are much more economical than a custom orthotic. But if you're not having, depending on the severity and the problems you're having, you may not need to go through the expense of a custom. Oftentimes, something like this is a preventative measure because it prevents, this plastizote prevents any rubbing from occurring inside the foot because it prevents sliding. And we can also do mild modifications to get pressure off the foot with these. I don't know if you can see this, but there's 3 layers to this orthotic. The top layer is plastizote. Then there's a thin blue layer that runs in between this orange piece and the plastizote top, and that's called poron. And it actually absorbs the shock and kind of tries to take the place of human fat padding that has been diminished from the bottom of the foot, but nothing is going to absorb shock like human fat padding. That is, human fat padding has the most shock absorption of anything. So we try to use that by putting cradle points in here in the orthotic or in this off-the-shelf insert, so to create the fat padding to come back down and cushion those areas. So cushioning isn't always the answer. Sometimes it's trying to use what we already have to solve the problem. So I showed you some of the shoes. Here's another shoe I'm going to show you real quick. And this is also meant for swelling. This shoe also has a custom or a off-the-shelf orthotic with it, and it comes with 2 layers, this one and this one. So if the swelling is a little bit, you just take one out. If it's a lot, you can take both out to accommodate the foot. And the top of this shoe is very easily adjustable to accommodate swelling if you need it for the instep of the foot there. So you can really get a nice wide fit. Now, before I go into the Kai buns, I just want to touch base with one other thing, because I feel that it's just as important as everyday shoes, because a lot of people with neuropathy can be walking around the house. And I know I don't wear shoes in my house, but if I step on something, I'm going to feel it and I'm going to take care of it. Where if you don't know that there's a problem, then you could be stepping on something. You could have stepped on a tack. We've had that happen to people, or a Lego, or there's several things that you could step on and it could cause a problem. So we also sell slippers that are extra depth, and they're thick inserts that have an arch in them. Now, it's hard to see, but there's a metatarsal pad and an arch built right into the slipper here. Or if you have a custom orthotic, the idea is to take this out and replace it with your custom orthotic when you're walking around the house, because you should never go in your bare feet or your stocking feet. You should always have some type of footwear on to protect your foot. Prevention is the key. You know, you want to try to prevent it. Back in the late 80s, there was a study done, and I think it was at Ball University, that they figured out that people with diabetic neuropathy, and that's what the study was on, diabetic neuropathy, getting properly fit footwear reduced hospital stays significantly. And that is why Medicare started paying for diabetic shoes at that time, because it wasn't because they were nice guys, it was because it was saving them money in hospital stays. So since then, I think they forgot about that study, and yeah, but it's still a concern.
Joe,
Sure.
That was one of the questions I was going to ask. Does Medicare, any health insurance cover any of these types of purposes?
They do. They only if you're diabetic. They don't take neuropathy into consideration, which is wrong. Because, yeah, just because you're diabetic doesn't mean you're going to have a foot problem. If you're diabetic and you have neuropathy, then you should be more concerned about preventative measures. But if you have neuropathy in general, they should cover it, but they don't. Because that's where you develop the problems, is with the neuropathy, not necessarily the diabetes, but it's the neuropathy, because there's several traumas that can cause neuropathy. there's, you know, there's literally thousands of things that can cause neuropathy. And I know there's a lot of tests out there. The easiest test for your doctor, especially if it's a podiatrist and you go into his office, he's probably gonna do, it's called a Sims-Weinstein test. And is what it looks something like this, and the monofilament on the end of this, which looks kind of like fishing line, and it comes in different strengths, is what they do is they touch different parts of the feet or hands with this, and to determine how severe the neuropathy is. So they hit these pressure points, and from this test, that's where they can come up with what type of neuropathy, how severe the neuropathy is. Is it a diminished light touch, or is it all the way a loss of sensation completely? And from that is really the best. And then they have what monofilament that they used to press up against that foot to determine that. So they may press like a 1.65 size monofilament, and you may be able to feel that, and you're fine for right now. Even though you have a little bit of diminished feeling, your feeling might be okay. But if they get down to the thicker monofilaments and you don't feel any of that, that's an issue. In fact, even if you're at a number 6, even the beginning, but as it progresses and it gets worse, and the force that they're pushing up against the foot, it's gonna, they're gonna know better on what you need, whether it's a drug, you know, because there are several drugs out there that do help neuropathy. The only shoe that I have ever found that has actually helped with the neuropathy pain was a Kaibon. Before I came across the Kaibons, it was strictly preventative. So we were trying to prevent anything from happening. We couldn't cure the feeling of the socks rolled up in the shoe or the tingly or the numbness. But a Swiss engineer developed this sole on this shoe here, and it comes in, this is a high profile, and this is what they call their low profile sole. So with the high profile, you're going to feel like you're actually walking on a trampoline, and it's very cushiony. And the inside of the shoe, it doesn't have an insert, but when you walk, the cushioning you get, the bounciness, the way this shoe is designed with a mild rocker bottom on it, it stretches the foot as you walk and provides better blood flow to the feet. And that's what helps the neuropathy, providing that better blood flow. Now, there are people that try this shoe on, and they say, yeah, it does help a little bit, but not 100%. And that's, you know, but then there's people that literally, most of the people that put these shoes on don't take them off. That's the difference that they make.
Joe, excuse me, just so those who see this in the future, could you spell the name of the manufacturer? Are you saying Kaibon?
Sure. Kaibon. It's Kaybun.
Okay, thank you.
Now, and you can go online and they can direct you to where there are other dealers. They are far and few between, though. Not too many people know about them. Like, we're the only one in this side of Pennsylvania that carries it. The next dealer is in Philadelphia. Now, if you get into some of the bigger, like New York, I think there's a couple dealers there. I heard you saying about there's some people in DC. I'm sure there's a dealer there or a couple dealers there.
We'll look that up.
Yeah.
And the other question, please, would you tell us the name of the test? SIMS, S-I-M?
The Sims-Weinstein test.
Okay. And is that only done by a podiatrist, or would your...
No. A lot of family doctors will do it too. General practitioners.
Okay.
Your endocrinologists, some of them do it too.
Okay.
I would think that they would all have that accessible to them to do that. Maybe, but with the very little time that they have today, sometimes you don't even get to see the doctor. You see the nurse practitioner or the physician's assistant. But they can do that test too. You know,
Okay.
they're more than qualified. Just to give you an idea, I was showing you the men's shoes in that. These are a couple of the women's styles. This is the high profile in the women's, and this is a low profile in the women's. And if nothing else, it doesn't hurt to go in and just try them on and see how they feel. If they don't feel, and I tell people, if they don't feel good from the start, they're not going to feel better later, you know. And that's with any shoe. It should feel good right from the start. You should never feel like you have to break a shoe in. It should feel good from day one, and that's with an orthotic as well. Now, you want to break them in slowly, especially with neuropathy. You should never put a new pair of shoes on or an orthotic or anything in your shoe without breaking it in slowly. And is what you want to do is wear and not walking the whole time, just a normal day's wear. If you're sitting on a chair and you get up, go into the kitchen, if you come back, you're taking, you know, in fact, you don't want to be walking the whole time. So the first day is an hour. Then every time you should take your shoes and socks off when you're breaking in a new shoe or orthotic. Take your shoes and socks off and see if there's any red marks on your feet. If there's a red mark in the same spot for 2 days in a row, it's important to go back to where you purchased that orthotic or that footwear and let them know about it so they can do something about it. Because if they don't know, they can't help you. But if they know that there's an issue, then you can even say, hey, maybe I need to go to a bigger size. If the end of my toes are red, that's an indication that the toes are hitting the end of the shoe. If you have hammer toes and the tops are red, it doesn't have to necessarily be the bottom of the foot that's irritating. In between the toes, you should check. Because if the toes are squished together like this, you might develop a problem in between your toes. So it's very important. I can't stress that enough. Check your feet. You should get a mirror. If you can't see the bottom of your feet, put the mirror on the ground and put your foot over top of the mirror and check the bottom of your foot. Sometimes they even have mirrors with little sticks on them that you can look at the bottom of your feet or around the ankle. Because preventative, and I keep mentioning that the preventative measures are the ones that are going to help you. Once you have an ulcer or you start developing a problem with it, then you have to try to catch up and heal that ulcer or heal that blister before it causes a problem. So you always want to use preventative measures before there is a problem. You want to take care of it. And checking your feet is probably the best way to do that. And it doesn't cost anything. You could probably buy a cheap mirror somewhere and at the dollar store even, and throw it on the floor and just take a look at the bottoms of your feet. And then if somebody has a very mild case of neuropathy, then I would use more of an insert like this. Now, the reason I wouldn't, if it's mild, and I wouldn't go with this, these aren't going to last as long, these Plastizode inserts. We can come up with something in between this that has a cork posting on it, like the bottom, like this one. These will last 3 to 5 years. Where these, if it's made strictly like this with the white Plastizode bottom, with the pink Plastizode top, these are good for about 6 weeks.
Ooh.
Yeah, because they'll start to bottom out, and then you should replace them with another pair. So what we have done is, for somebody that has a severe problem that we have to get the pressure off of, we'll probably start with something like this and then move to something like this, and maybe even put a Plastizode top on top of this, and you'll get a much longer wear time out of that orthotic. And it's still going to distribute the weight more evenly, so it takes the pressure off of the foot. Like with this one, it's hard to see too, but this has what's called a metatarsal bar built into it. So this particular person was getting pressure on their metatarsal heads right at the ball of the foot. So we raised that up a 1/4 inch behind those metatarsal heads. So when they walk, it pulls up on those and takes the pressure off of that area. Metatarsal pad can also be used, very mild, if you have hammer toes or drop metatarsal heads. Something as simply as that, if it's mild neuropathy, and they're very inexpensive, like $12 for a metatarsal pad, and it just takes the pressure off the met heads. Is there anything that you wanted me to talk about that I didn't mention, that, or you have any questions at this point?
Did you talk to them about the other things you do besides shoes?
Okay, so yeah, the other things that we do is, like, I will do assessments, go into places and assess them for ADA compliance, but usually they're homes. We do a lot for the state of Pennsylvania, where they'll have us go in and assess someone's home if they need, or someone coming out of rehab that doesn't quite know what they need at this point. They just know they're going to need help. They can't walk up the stairs anymore. They can't, if they're in a wheelchair, they have steps to the outside of their house. They're not going to be able to get in and out of the house easily. They don't want to be a prisoner inside their own home. So we come up with a solution for that. We'll put maybe a stair lift in to the basement, or a stair lift from the first floor to the second floor. Make sure you can get to your shower, your bathroom, your laundry room. So you can be self-sufficient still, and it saves the expense of moving. With stair lifts can start, is just one stair lift, just going up a single flight of steps, or they can get as complicated as winding around in a circular motion to go up a circular staircase, or in a split entry home to wind around to the second staircase. We do walk-in showers, roll-in showers, portable showers. We do a lot of portable showers where, so say somebody is in a situation where maybe they can't have, they don't want to do a whole bathroom remodel, but they have a caregiver that's willing to help them shower. So it's a base that can come out. It can be set up in a kitchen area or in a living room, and it has a pump on it, so it pumps the water back out into a drain, and then you connect it up to like a kitchen sink, bathroom sink, and then the tube comes down and it comes up to a portable shower, so you can hose someone off and give them a shower in the living room or wherever, the bedroom, wherever it's convenient. So we do a lot of install of grab bars. Not necessarily, a lot of them in the bathroom, some maybe in the bedroom, over the toilet, just to keep you steady if you're standing or transferring. Sometimes the other thing we do with ramps that are not necessarily for a height level difference, it may be just more like an aluminum sidewalk to get from A to B. Because there are some insurance companies that do pay for these. One is PA Health and Wellness. They're probably one of the larger ones around here. And that's usually for somebody that is receiving medical assistance. They will pay for some of these modifications to the home. They will pay for a stair lift. They will pay for modifications or a remodel for the bathroom if need be, to get somebody tub cutouts. We do a lot of those where we're cutting out the center of the tub so you can walk through the tub, and so there's not as high of a step. The step goes from being like, well, you know, it's hard to, from being that high to just a low, very low step, so you don't have, you can lift your feet up over with a shower chair.
Joe?
Yes.
Excuse me, if we've already remodeled our bathroom and didn't think to install the grab bars, which we're sorry about now. Once you've already done your tile or whatever, can you add a grab bar, or does that destroy what you've already put in?
No, you can. A lot of times we add grab bars right to existing showers.
Okay.
So,
but I mean, you just do a hole in the tile? I mean, does it wreck what?
Yeah, and it
do the whole surround again?
So it depends on what we're attaching to. For example, when we put, I should have brought some of these, but I didn't think to. When we put a shower unit in, what we're using, it's called Best Bath, and they're made very thick, and so you can drill right in to and attach it right to the shower. It's like an inch of plywood behind the acrylic. Okay. So it's very strong. You can put a grab bar wherever you need it. Now, if it's towel or acrylic without a backing behind there, then we have special ADA anchors that we use that go in before we attach the grab bar, and then we attach the grab bar to these anchors that they're like claws that draw back in, and they're special anchors specifically for grab bars.
Okay.
They're made for that purpose, and they can, so you can put grab bars into tile, into any part of the wall that you want with those.
Okay,
as long
thank you.
as it's in good shape.
Good.
And yeah, so that's basically what we do, you know, and that's you know, with the shoes, we've been doing that for a long time, and we've been doing probably the stair lifts and the rest of the modifications for about 20 years. But the shoes we've been doing since 1930, and brace work.
John.
Anybody else have any questions?
Yeah, John, this is Karen Mowry. Cushioning in shoes is a problem for me. It affects my balance. Could you hear me? Yeah, cushioning of any kind affects my balance. So, do you have any recommendations?
So too much cushioning, you feel like you're lopsided, or you feel unsteady on your feet.
Right.
Yeah. So some people do feel like it depends, and that's why I said the Kai buns. It's not a fix-all. It's not a shoe for everybody. It's something you really do have to try on, and you have to feel secure on your feet. So if you're having some balance issues, the Kai buns might help, but they may not. Now, we do have other footwear like SAS. SAS is sold probably in every part of the country, and they have good shoes. They have shoes made for diabetics. Now, when they say, you know, it's a diabetic shoe, for it to be a diabetic shoe, it has to come in at least 3 different widths. It has to have an inlay in the shoe that comes out of the shoe, so there's an extra 1/4 inch in depth. And a diabetic shoe also has to have either a lace or a Velcro closure. And it has to have no stitching on the inside of the shoe whatsoever, and little stitching or overlapping of leathers on the outside of the shoe. So that's what makes it. So those are if you have neuropathy, looking for a diabetic shoe is a good idea, because they're kind of the diabetic shoe that the credentials that shoe has to have for to meet Medicare's diabetic shoe code, which is A5500. They have to send those shoes in and get that shoe coded. So if it has that A5500 code for a diabetic footwear, it's going to help with neuropathy. It's going to be a preventative shoe with neuropathy too.
So I think what you want with our balance issues, if you can't use a Kai bun, are there other?
Oh, shoes? Absolutely, yeah. The SAS, Drew, ProPay has several. Dr. Comfort. Yeah, there's several shoes now that we carry. In fact, we don't carry anything that's not a diabetic shoe except for the Kai buns. That's the only shoe that's not a diabetic approved shoe, or the Kai buns. But they do help neuropathy.
It's distressing to see when I looked up Kai bun near Washington, D.C., Amazon comes up first. Who would buy a shoe online?
You know what? Amazon, yeah, you can't. I know they come up on there under the Kai buns.
Yes.
But if you go to purchase them, I don't think you can on Amazon.
Okay. It's advertised. Yeah. I don't know. I'm looking to see if there's a place in the DC area.
Yeah, I think they use that as like a trick, like one of their search words, like the Kai bun. They probably put, you know, all of the shoe manufacturers in there, so whenever you type that in, it comes up. But I've had people tell me that before, but then you can't actually purchase that shoe on there.
Okay, thank you.
You can purchase the shoes online. You can purchase them online. I just don't think you can through Amazon. But
well,
you can definitely get them
again,
online.
The question though is, why would you buy a shoe online? You would never feel that you had it fitted correctly, or if you had a problem.
Exactly. And the Kai buns aren't an inexpensive shoe, and they are something that you should be fit for. and it should be something that you're trying on to make sure that it's going to help. You know, because you should know that that's going to help right from the start.
Mr. Ponsi, I'm a classic customer for what you described tonight, and you used the term metatarsal area or center or something like that.
The metatarsal heads or the metatarsal pad.
Well, I have an ulcer on my foot. It's right on the ball of my foot. It's from wear. And I've been treating it a long time with my podiatrist, and he's recommending surgery on two little bones that stick down on your foot. And I don't know if you can see my hands, but they do that. You can look at a foot picture, and I can see those two little bones. He's recommending taking those out because he says my foot is, you know, stretched to the point where they're just eating, you know, hitting. Opening up a wound, you know, by when I'm walking.
Ouch.
So.
Yep. That probably is your metatarsal, two of your metatarsal heads. So that's, and it's probably from what you're describing. Well, if it's the first one, like behind the great toe, or the second toe, that would be the first. Yeah.
And then would you, I mean, does that seem usual to you for a doctor to recommend just taking out those two bones?
I have heard of that before. If it's an ulcer that they're having a hard time curing. Yeah, they're having a hard time healing.
Right.
Yeah. So if it's been over a couple of years, that is a procedure that's more commonly done.
Now,
to get the pressure off. If you've tried everything else, like they have, there's a lot of different post-op shoes that are elevated in the forefoot, so you walk and there's no pressure on it. But that's the key, getting the pressure off of that ulcer.
Yes, I do have special shoes that way. Also, there's a popular brand of. They advertise them as neuropathy shoes called Ortho Feet. Offer a lot of models, and you didn't mention those. I was just wondering if that was something you all might sell or recommend.
We do, and it is a very good shoe. And they have a lot of really nice shoes with wide toe boxes too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good shoe.
How about Hoka?
I like Hoka a lot. I've never tried them, but I've seen them come through our store. We don't carry them, but it's what I like about the Hokas is they have a nice wide base to them. And so it's going to give you a lot of stability. I like the construction of the Hokas. I think they even have like one or two styles that even come in widths. But New Balance are really hard to get right now, and I've heard the Hokas are too. But I can't say for sure for the Hokas because it's not a shoe that we carry.
Right.
Diane asked about the slippers that Joe showed, and Joe said they're about $100.
Yeah, that's this one that's made by Spenco, and which is another brand that you may have heard about. They're nationwide, and they have in fact they're worldwide. What I like about this particular slipper is it has a wide base. So the wider the base on the shoe, and that's the same thing with that Hoka, it's going to distribute the weight more evenly, and it's going to give you more stability. Brooks is another shoe that we don't carry, but a lot of their shoes are pretty good too. You know, and New Balance, we can't get them right now, but New Balance tennis shoes, they have their shoes come in true widths. So they come up to 6Es wide, and they used to come as narrow as 4As, but they cut their 4As out, and a lot of their double A's they cut out. And it's, but when you have widths, a lot of widths in shoes, it's better to get the correct size. Because a lot of times people wear their shoes too short because they have a narrow foot. So is what you're doing, the volume inside that shoe is the same. But your foot's, instead of you're changing the shape of your foot. Your foot is hitting the end of the shoe because you want it to feel tighter on your foot. But really, you may need it longer and narrower. And narrow shoes are one of the hardest to find today. There's a lot of wide shoes, but very few 4As or slims. Even the companies that do make them don't make a whole lot of styles in those.
Why did you sell Hoka's?
You know what? I was thinking about it right about right as the pandemic hit. I was going to put them in, and then everything became hard to get. So they're not even open. I wouldn't even think they're opening new dealers right now. I called them a couple of times. They never returned my calls.
Really?
Yeah. So yeah, they probably aren't even. Yeah, they're having a hard time supplying the dealers they have now, let alone
Somebody new.
someone new.